Hello everyone, this is Fastball Productions, Jay High here. I just saw a little bit of discourse online about if there are too many Smash tournaments. That is something that I definitely have a lot of thoughts about, and so I just wanted to briefly go over kind of the idea of all of that. So, there's been some posts about, I saw a few recently, and also I was involved with one for a while ago. One with the Smash scene having such little money, it being solely up to passion or being good at the game. It's hard to improve, it's hard to afford things, which I think has a point. However, there's plenty of reasons to attend events in my idea. I think that's like, and no hate against this person. I think they, I've seen them do good stuff in the game a lot better than me. And also, I think there's points here. Additionally, this person replied saying that ditching large tournament formats. I love invitationals, but open brackets are awesome. Like that should not be removed at all from any of this. Another thing here, this was the big thing that got my attention, saying that there should be a set number of big tournaments. I could not disagree more. Again, no hate, but I think that this is the antithesis of what grassroots esports is all about. Of course, there is an overarching group of panelists and stats people, both for Melee and all these other games as well, that determine rankings, and the prestige of a tournament helps feed into those rankings. And I think that there is a place for that. However, determining a very small number of what counts, I think is kind of pointless when we have so much momentum with Smash. There's truly no other game that I've seen that has nearly the amount of offline presence. Fighting games, like traditional non-platform fighting games, used to have that with like arcades and early stuff, but now since netcode is so good for many of them, and like you have ladders built into the games, you don't have a ton of people go to events consistently. You have Ego, you have Combo Breaker, Final Round, all these other more occasional events, but you don't have like consistent local attendance nearly as much as you do for Smash. Ultimate especially, there are so many locals, and each local scene wants to try and have something special. Usually, there's a lot of ideas to try and get their event up and running. Now, a lot of times there's crashing and burning. People might overextend, overdo it, and not be as successful as they wanted to. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't try. That's their decision for them to go into extra effort and then take a step back and say, hey, is this a good idea for me next time? I want to, before I come back to this, I want to go a little bit off of that, and I want to show my experience of being in Virginia. Now, I live in this part of Virginia, Southwest Virginia. It's kind of more central, but compared to other places, it's kind of southwest. Now, this subregion is one of the newer subregions, does not have as many, it's more of a lot of college towns, Zane being the most famous, I guess, most influential person that participated in this subregion back when he was at Virginia Tech back in Blacksburg. But Lynchburg, Blacksburg, you used to have Roanoke stuff, now you have some stuff in Salem. Danville used to have a couple things in South Boston. You have things in kind of the Meadowview, Emory and Henry area. You have Bristol, even you had Wise stuff over here. Radford, kind of next to Blacksburg. Martinsville had some players. Other places around here. This is one part that goes several hours away from each other. Like Lynchburg and Blacksburg are like a little bit over an hour and a half from each other. You also have Farmville as well, which they're pretty close to Central Virginia, but they are usually associated with Lynchburg and Southwest Virginia a decent bit. There are tournaments consistently held in a quarter of one of the lower, uh, like one of the states that are smaller. It is about 8 hours across and 5 hours tall. But even in this part of the state, there are multiple little cities that, we call ourselves a subregion, but we all do our own things. There's no overarching, uh, like while I am involved with panels and other things like that, each TO team has their own thing. And if you go over to Central Virginia, you have Richmond, Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, and Fredericksburg. These four all do their own things as well. All have weeklies. All try and do larger events as well. Charlottesville having a Cavalier Clash, being very successful. Fredericksburg used to have some things. It's not quite as big anymore. Harrisonburg does duke it out. Richmond has a lot of consistent events. And then you have Southern Virginia. This is technically Southeastern Virginia, but they were an older scene. So they took the name SOVA, while you have Southwest Virginia over here. I mean, Virginia Beach, huge scene here. You having consistent like 40, 50, sometimes more, like 60 or 70 man weeklies. Stick Drift was really big. You also have Newport News in Williamsburg, and a couple things I think in Chesapeake, Norfolk. You have this subregion, which, largely Virginia Beach, but you have other things here as well. And of course you have Northern Virginia, which is the largest, most notable scene. SmashCon, now Supernova, is held in Chantilly, however you say it, up here in Northern Virginia. You have a large scene at George Mason University in Fairfax. Also, the Cave is around there, very large local scene there. Other places like Woodbridge, Alexandria, I think a couple things in Leesburg. I'm probably missing a few. Ashburn, I think. But it's a very tight-knit group right here. You also have Winchester, which is like Western Nova. There's other people in West Virginia right here that kind of go to it sometimes. But generally you have, this is the main part of Nova. And it's very close to Washington, D.C. and Maryland, when, the subregion of MDVA is with that. So we're not even considering Maryland right now. You also have the Delmarva Peninsula here, which usually, if you're on, you usually go to like Salisbury, in Maryland. If you're in this part of Delaware, this part of Virginia, you probably, maybe a few go to Virginia Beach, but not that frequent. But in general, Virginia is so packed of little cities trying to do their own thing, sometimes larger cities. But so many of us have tried to have a event that invites people from around and trying to have prestige. I won't leak anything from this year. This was just last year. Look at all these weekend events that happened. I mean, it is almost 100. And that's not including weeklies. This is just like the once in a while events, whether it be monthlies or anything like this. I mean, you had 5 events on April 27th, one of mine included. And it was, each event had some success. Others had more tennis than other tournaments, but you still had each part having this kind of success because everything is so spread out and kind of self-sustaining. Of course, SmashCon, now Supernova, you have Cavalier Clash, Stick Drift, other larger events, sometimes going to Maryland or North Carolina or Tennessee. You have so much happening in this one state. Now, let alone looking at last year's Smash calendar, and this is not even necessarily like regionals. This is like more nationals. You have tons of events. And this is missing a lot, but it still is over 160. There are so many tournaments, so many. Now, a lot of them, they don't even get to triple digits. Largest event that Lynchburg's ever had is 76. Blacksburg, they've gone like over 150 in the past, but usually they're around, like 70. We're around 20 to 40 for our events, depending on the prestige of the event. Other places I mentioned in Virginia have larger events. You see a lot in Richmond, see a lot in Fairfax, a lot in Virginia Beach. places like that, you have all these contained places that try and work together, but it's difficult. Eventually, there's a few things that work together, but there are so many different ideas of what, like, each TO wants to have their big tournament and have like top level or at least high level players come to their event and see regional clashes and hype sets. That is so common across the world. Like, yeah, there's some places that are less represented. You know, you're gonna have a lot more in Japan than you would have in other places nearby. But this is one state out of 50 in America. Now, one of the more active in terms of individual cities with consistent tournaments, but still, 50 states. And this is far from the only country. You have Latin America, Canada, Europe, Japan, other countries as well. Like, there are so many different cities and groups and all these things working together, but also sometimes like self-sustaining, trying to do their big event. So if you decide to say these are what matter, like these are the majors and everything else is just less than, you are cutting off so many people having the goal of trying to have a major. So much of recent success has been events coming out of nowhere, rising from the ashes, while other tournaments are going away, and having new talent, new TOs as well, replacing other examples of events that they have seen. Melee has been huge with that. Also Ultimate as well. There's been a lot of up and coming events that came out of nowhere. It's not your Genesis, it's not your Evo Big House, whatever. There's a lot of newer events. Patchwork being a great example. That really was not known, but it's been really successful with North Carolina getting a lot of people to come. And so, if you decide that as hard as you work, you could have MKLeo, Spargo, Sonics, Mia, like you could have all these top talent, but because it's not an assigned major, it doesn't count as much, even though you have people that are trying their best just like they would at one that is assigned a major. You're just being, you're just being exclusive. You're just arbitrarily drawing a line and not have it be merit-based. Now, I understand that economically, competition, sometimes there can be undercuts. We also saw with, I mentioned Cap Clash earlier, we saw Luminosity have a little bit of a controversy with surprisingly scheduling one of their events the same day. But people wanted to support Cav Clash, so it became a larger event in the Luminosity ranking formula than their tournament did. And so if you allow merit to determine the success of a tournament, I think that's truly the best way that grassroots can function. Now, of course, sometimes it's kind of a chicken and the egg situation. Sometimes a lot of times you have an event that is determined how much it counts after you look at who is signed up. If there's, private, not displayed signups, you don't know how much it's going to be. Usually this matters a little bit more for Ultimate, because mainly it's like you have your core, like, usually if you get a lot of the top 10, a lot of the top 50, that's enough to be considered a major, super major, national, however you want to say it. For the premier tier, A tier, B tier, all the way down, it's a lot more, I wouldn't say subjective, because they try and make it like an objective process, but it's usually a little bit more fluctuating. And so people aren't sure if they want to attend something if they don't know who's going, but if they don't know who's going, they might not want to attend, because they're like, oh, I don't want to sign up and waste my money if it's not going to be a big deal, if it's not going to have a lot of viewership, not a lot of competition. If I'm going to be the top seed by far, and I'm going to make a couple $100, but risk having a monumental upset that that ruins my image and my rank and all these things. And so if we have this closed sign up, then people might not want to sign up because they don't know who's going. But if they don't sign up, they can't just say that they're going to help someone else sign up. It becomes a cycle, and unfortunately, because of that, I mean, also tournaments don't want to have. Sometimes they don't want to show the signups because it shows that, oh, not many people signed up yet. The mystery, the allure of who could be there, ooh, you better join, sometimes gets people to sign up. So it's difficult. I usually prefer public sign up, but that's up to the TO discretion. Either way, having it be merit based, having it be where each individual tournament is doing their best to attract people to their event, I think is the better system. Now, in the past, I've had a discussion where people think that there's a lot of burnout, there's a lot of stress for players, that there's too many events, it's so stressful. I got involved with something like this to where there should be a limited amount of events. And I was thinking, yeah, Nintendo's not really being a part of it. It's not like where you have tennis or golf, these singles events that have a larger company that are having events count more than other things and putting more behind it. Nintendo is hands off, and we kind of want it that way. But you don't have things like, okay, this is the big event. This is the thing you should go to for this quarter of the year. It's like, hey, whatever happens, happens. And because of individuals deciding to do that, preferring some individuals to others is, you can really undercut a lot of people that could, have that big break, have that really cool moment for their scene where they get people to come to their event and maybe they defend, maybe they get to see some awesome gameplay. And there's several different reasons for why events attract people. Each TO has to make choices. It used to be where there was not very many events. There'd be a few a year. But I think the main two things that changed that was Smash 4 being a huge influx of new players, along with the Smash documentary from Sandbox. That got a lot of people into the scene, and hey, if there is no local scene around you, become the local scene, become a TO. That was a huge thing for me, is I started pretty early in Smash 4's lifespan, starting to do Smash 4, Melee, PM, Rivals. I started having a lot of other events be a part of what I tried to do, and I failed a lot, but I learned. And eventually I became part of weekly tournaments that would have monthlies. We would try and bring some people out. It'd be difficult because we're a little bit more secluded from other parts of Virginia. But eventually we kind of made an identity, and now we do some invitationals once a semester. We try and do weeklies for both Ultimate and Melee, a little bit of Rivals as well. And we do have monthlies as well, although that hasn't been successful recently. It's been usually just weeklies and invitationals. But that's something that we wanted to do. We made choices. Now, other TOs make choices. Sometimes they just do their one major. They might collaborate with other events, but usually they stick to their one. Now, that can leave holes, in between those large tournaments. So usually there's weeklies. Sometimes there's multiple groups that do weeklies in the same city. You have a lot of New York. You have Northern Virginia. You have these places that have consistent events from independent TO groups in the same local area. And so that is a lot. And how do you set yourself apart? Sometimes there's prize pools. They try and make it be a part of a larger goal, maybe an invitational. Sometimes there's carpool discounts, trying to have people group together to come to the event, trying to have more of a, hey, have an experience outside of the tournament. You saw a lot of water park tournaments, you got Smash Camp that just happened. You have other things that cause events to be creative. And sometimes they can count for a lot, sometimes they specifically ask not to count for things. because they want it to be more of a chill vibe. But either way, not shutting the door on people because you decided that you're not a part of the prestigious top level group before they can even potentially earn it is excluding what has allowed people to network and to put hard work into it and to show how people can come together to enjoy the same game. And I think that if you were deciding to just limit who is a part of that, I just don't think is valuable. You have people that already determine an event's prestige, whether it be with the algorithm for the luminosity ranking or the melee stats end of year, sometimes for summer as well, but having like a more panel-based system. There's already ways of determining the prestige of an event. If something has a few top 20 members, it's different if you have 8 of the top 10. Now, obviously, they're not just going to be throwing, they're not trying to lose, it still matters. But deciding beforehand that you cannot, as hard as you work, as awesome as you make your event, you cannot be in this upper tier just because, I think removes that motivation to want to do that stuff. Who's going to be more creative if they don't have the opportunity of making it big? Now, not everyone is going to. Personally, I've had events where I really tried to have people travel. I got scheduled over and kind of got ignored when I wanted to make it an issue. But it was like, look, at the end of the day, each person is trying to do their own thing. Everyone has their dream of wanting to host an event, and they see people that they've only seen on their screen travel and show what they got and make people come together to enjoy something. Everyone has that dream, and maybe not everyone, but at least I have, and a lot of people do as well. That's why there's so many events outside of just weeklies. You have a lot of people like reserving venues and coordinating with other places, like, hey, please come to my event. It's not like, come to you if you want, I don't care. They're actively seeking out people to come. And that is something that I think is very valuable. There's been so many people that have been able to become close to someone just because they play the same video game together. And I think that there can be a trickle-down effect of negativity if you are not allowing events to get people to attend and to boost the prestige, and maybe the next month or next quarter, next half year, next year, whatever, have the ability to keep that going and build on that momentum and create a local scene from that. And it really is a huge part of what I think grassroots is about. You have so many different vibes, so many different styles of events, not just necessarily in bracket format, but like how the community in that part of the world treats their events. And obviously there's, no one will attend every single event. That's just not possible. But having the ability to people to have I remember the Melee Stats podcast was saying that it's a buyer's market. There's so many events. Now that's kind of decreased with you have Big House and Shine and other events that have kind of declined or just gone away. But there are still a lot of regional events that you just get a couple more, like they are just dependent on a couple more people showing up. And it's like, hey, maybe I stay home and I stream and just play Slippy, or I go to this event, I hang out with this community, and be on stream. Maybe it's a huge production, maybe it's a basement vibe where it's a 480p camera that you can barely make out who is who. Like, I hope that kind of gives my perspective of why events should be allowed to potentially be as big of a deal as possible. I don't think that it's helpful to cut that out. So I think that it's a hard conversation to have because it is so up in the air, because I mentioned here it's like the Wild West. You have so many ideas and independent things that inevitably people step on toes, people get frustrated, and you have a lot of difficulty figuring out what truly is important. But that doesn't mean that we should go to where there's only a few events that matter. And that's probably not what this person is saying. It's probably more of a, like, hey, regionals are cool, but majors are the one that people care about. I think people should care about whatever they want to care about. A super regional could exist and have a lot of top 50 talent, a lot of, hidden bosses, a lot of people that, you never know what they might do, and that doesn't mean that just because you don't have Zain versus Cody that it doesn't matter. There's plenty of events that could matter, so don't be, be inclusive, allow people to make their own decisions and try and boost up their own events and see how it turns out. It's hard to figure out what exactly is happening, what matters, but I think there's a lot of cool things that people can do to help people that don't have as much free time to perceive what is happening. I have a few things I want to try out, so stay tuned. I'm going to be showing them off soon. I'm going to be trying to do more like stream style videos, just because having a longer editing process can slow me down. It's discouraging. So maybe you care about this, maybe you don't, but just want to get that out there. Shout outs to you that watched. If you have a comment, please let me know. We have a Discord as well, trying to get that going back up. I also stream pretty consistently. I've been doing Pokemon Nuzlocke recently, trying to turn that into something where I get better at and maybe even make events from that. So yeah, thanks for watching.